All right, this is part one of our webpage lesson. So the first thing we're going to do is open up Notepad, and you do that by going to the Start menu and Accessories, and then Notepad. Or if you're Windows 8, you just go ahead and find the tile called Notepad and double-click and open it up. We use a text editor because in the beginning of the internet, we only had very small lines in order to be able to transmit data. So we need something very small files in order to be able to do that. And so text files, being the smallest files, allowed us to do it. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we need to type in order to be able to create a web page. Now, a web page is created from tags. And the first tag we're going to put on there is a star and then doc type HTML. This tag here lets the browser know that we'll be using HTML5, which is a newer version of HTML. HTML has been around since the 1990s, and over time it needed to be updated, but we needed to keep the old standard because older browsers did them. Well, this one's going to be using HTML5, which is the latest, greatest of the HTML versions, and we want to let the browser know that. All right, so the second thing we need to put in there is we have to say, well, this is a HTML document, HTML, and it shows this is the language we're going to be using. Now we can say we're using HTML5, and then say we're also using JavaScript, and that could be this tag if that's what we're using. But this is just HTML, so we're letting it know from this point forward use the HTML interpreter in order to be able to interpret the tags on this. So each tag has a start tag, which is a less than symbol, and a greater than symbol as a stop tag. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put something in the head of our document, and the head section is there simply for information that is not going to be displayed in the body or the area that we normally look at for a web page. The first thing we're going to put in there is a title, and that requires a tag. And I'm going to say Tom, that's this starting the title, Tom Brady's web page, and then I need to stop the title. So I'm going to say /title, and that stops it. I also have to stop the head, so I'm going to go ahead and stop that. And then I'm going to come down here and also stop HTML. Now the browser could care less, but this is good syntax. And now we've stopped and started everything. So the other thing we want to do is put something in the body. So the body is the part of the page that you actually can see. And one of the things we want to do is go ahead and put a heading on there. So I'm going to use the H1 tag. H1 is very big and bold. It goes from H1 to H6. H6 is very tiny. So I'm going to say for this one, welcome to Tom's web page. And now I also have to turn off that H1 or everything is going to be big and bold on my page. And we do that with the /H1. All right, so what have we done? We declared that we're using HTML5, that we're going to be using we want to use the HTML interpreter to interpret our tags. We put into there a title section in our head, and that's just going to show up at the very top of our web browser. And then this is the body that we're going to be using, and this is what I'm going to have on the body, just some big and bold text. And the last thing I'm going to do before we save this is /body, and that closes the body. Now everything has a stop and a stop tag. The last thing I'm going to do is save this. So I'm going to do File and then Save. I recommend you save it to a USB drive so it's easy for you to find later on. Down here where it says file name, we're going to call this mypage.htm, or .mypage.html, doesn't make a difference. The most important thing is this save as type. It's very important that you change this to all files. If you don't, Windows is going to put .txt at the end of your .htm, and then it's not going to be able to be displayed correctly. All right, so let's go ahead and save it. And now that it's saved, now we can go ahead and preview it in the browser. So I'm going to go ahead and open up Windows Explorer so I can see my page. And there it is right there. Now notice I have this kind of funky looking symbol here. You would usually have an E for Internet Explorer or a Chrome or a Firefox symbol here. I have other software loaded, that's why it doesn't look like that. But if it looks like a white box, you forgot to change the .txt and you have a text file here. So I'm going to go ahead and right mouse click on this and tell it I want to open it with, and let's go ahead and pick a browser. Let's go ahead and pick Internet Explorer. What the heck? Okay, and then bam, this is what it looks like. Okay, there's my title, Tom Brady's webpage, and there's my H1, and that's all there is to it. So this is the end of part 1. You have successfully created a text file that is your source file, which is your Notepad file, and you saved it and then opened up that same page in the browser and interpreted these tags and created that page.